Hero Pictures came to me with the script. It was the first episode and I was like, wow, who is this amazing lady? And I went online. I thought, how do I not know this story? It's incredible. And then watched all of Anne's documentaries, read her book, For the Love of Julie, cried my eyes out and was like, my goodness, please let me play Anne. And I was so grateful. And yeah, just thrilled that her story is finally out there.
ITV got in touch with me with Hera and said that, they were talking about doing a drama. And they said that they were going to ask Sheridan Smith to play me. And I've watched everything she's ever done. And I thought, well, if anybody can do it, she can do it,
Aww.
And because he sort of like, when I read the script, and Jimmy did the script and I read that. And I thought to myself, well, people had said to me, they should do a drama on it, you see. But of course, they never approached me, so I'd never done, that was it. So I'm really pleased. I mean, I went on set. She didn't know I was there, Sheridan.
No, I didn't.
And so I was watching and I thought, she turned to me.
Oh, it was an emotional day, though. I didn't know you were there.
It's really strange because I've said this all along. She's got an ability as an actress to become that person who she's portraying. And not many actresses have that. She doesn't look like she's doing like acting lines. She's become me. That's how I felt. Watching her.
What an honour coming from you.
In fact, some of the pictures, you did some photos, I thought it was me. I said, because Kevin said to me, he was at the cemetery, and I said to Kevin, I don't remember getting that picture taken. And it was Sheridan with a wig on, minus any tattoo. And don't forget, you're going back like the age she is now. Well, I was that age, you say, when it all happened. So, yeah.
Oh, what an honour.
Couldn't have picked anybody better.
Are you there, Julie?
Please. My daughter's disappeared.
There's no evidence that anything happened to her inside that house.
I don't know. For me, I think it's all about Sheridan. I mean, obviously it's all about Anne, but I think in terms of making the show, I think her commitment to this role and her extraordinary performance and how grueling it was playing this part, because she really inhabited the part, and she was on set every single day for every single scene with absolutely no break, and it was really relentless, and she was just in search of perfection in playing the part, and I think she's completely extraordinary, and so I think that's absolutely at the heart of it.
I think that's right, and I think the only thing I would add to that is that when you get somebody like Sheridan who is so committed to the real person and to the story, what that engenders in the rest of the cast and crew, everybody came to it with a deep respect for Anne, what she's achieved, and for Sheridan in the commitment she gave us every single day. And that was one of the most, extraordinary things and one of the most memorable for me on working on something like this.
She's courageous, Sheridan is. She doesn't have any vanity when it comes to like this sort of role, for example, that requires that you age 17 years. A lot of actors would be, well, maybe I can look a little younger than I would have been, like that whole thing. She doesn't have that. She's extremely committed to the authenticity of the part, whatever the part requires, emotionally, physically. She just goes, all in, and it's a great sort of gift for a director to work with.
I actually think also there's a lot of similarity between Sheridan and Anne in terms of personalities. There's something to do, it's something about how Anne treats everyone the same, talks to everyone the same, whether you're a waiter in a restaurant or in the House of Lords. She doesn't care. She talks to you exactly the same way. And there's something about Sheridan that has that same... There are no class barriers, there are no social barriers. She just is who she is. And she seems to relate to people in a way that Anne does, and I think it's a really important similarity, that in terms of Sheridan getting under Anne's skin, living in her shoes, being able to be that person. She just inhabited the role immediately. She just got it straight away, and I mean I think she's an extraordinary actress.
They met a couple of times and really got on immediately. And definitely there was an affinity between them, absolutely from the get-go, which is just wonderful and very moving, actually. But Sheridan was meticulous in the research that she did, and she watched the documentary. There's quite a lot of footage of Anne on screen available in documentaries, and Sheridan was watching those between takes.
And she
between
had her
scenes.
voice in her
Yes.
ear, in her
Yeah.
earphones, and just listening to it over and over. And she
Yeah.
said with her physicality, her friend was saying that she was walking differently because she was wearing padding, particularly as the older Anne, and prosthetics and wig, and really transforms into Anne.
Work with that method that she has. It's quite challenging, I think. She completely commits to the true emotions of each scene, and she doesn't really come to it very prepared like many actors would, or like having a plan in advance about what you're going to do. She completely takes the page, reads it, and then she delivers on take one, and then we just start molding it together, and then it's almost like my job a lot of times was to sort of put the brakes on her a little bit, so that she didn't exhaust herself or go too hard in, because of the way the story is scripted. There are so many ups and downs and wins and losses, and like all scenes are emotional, pretty much every one of them. For her, for Ann Ming's character, all of these scenes are emotional simply because they're about her daughter and the tragedy of everything that's happened. But you can't just play the tragedy of it all the time, and you have to find ways of getting a bit of levity in there, or finding times where you can pick up the pace a bit more, and all of that stuff. Sheridan works very intuitively.
Yeah. And given that she does so much on instinct, that's why in a script or a series of 4 scripts where there is so much emotion, it was so important that her instincts were bang on, because she gives too much or goes too high on that emotion scale too early. It doesn't really leave you anywhere to go, and it's quite exhausting for the audience to watch. So that the pitching of that performance, I'm in awe. I mean, it's Eric as well, making sure that we hit the right level at the right point. So the fact she just has an instinct. Okay, I think this is how. 99 times out of 100. Yep, that's exactly the right level. She's got it. So it was amazing to watch as well.
And I said to her then, I said, if anybody can play me, you can. That's a disability she's got. She's a brilliant actress. Absolutely,
excellent. I was starstruck because I'd read everything about Anne and seen her. I was so in awe. I couldn't stop cuddling. I was all giddy. Yeah. I still am like that around you.
Yes.
Yeah, I was so emotionally invested in it straight away, and we had an instant connection.
But I said to you, she it took 9 weeks to film. She packed that into what I'd done for years, and just lived in this state of being hyper all the time.
Oh, high anxiety. I don't know how you did it.
I know.
I mean, that was just 9 weeks shoot, and I was, I honestly don't know. You're incredible. That was that much of.
It's dangerous when I wrote the book, because people kept saying she'd write a book, and we couldn't do anything. We got convicted. And when I read my book myself, I can't believe I've been through all that. And that's where I felt like watching the drama. When I watched all 4 episodes, I just cried all the way through it. I've watched it twice now, you see, and each time because I'm reliving it. Yeah. And she's doing my story as though she's me. Does that make sense? It's just like watching yourself. It's really not like watching an actress portraying you. It's like watching me, being me.
Oh,
but you
God,
being
that's
me.
amazing. That's the biggest compliment. Thank you. That's all I wanted was to do your story justice, and try and feel the emotions that you had.
She's done that, and if she doesn't get a BAFTA award, there's something wrong. To campaign for that.
She has got a little boy. There is no way she would never ever leave him for that long.
Even so, it's still too soon to report her as missing.
Listen, I am telling you, something's happened to her. Why won't any of you listen to me?
Pardon me. It's Mrs. Ming, is it?
Yes.
Sergeant Wilkinson.
It was essential to us, specifically to me as a writer, that she was on board and fully approving of everything we did. So yeah, I was very nervous the first time I sent her the scripts, very relieved when she was thrilled, and very grateful to have her on the end of a phone, or went up to see her a few times to check a few things, run a few things past her, and she was always just nothing but incredibly gracious and helpful. Yeah.
When I got the first script, there was a few things to change, and I ran it past Kevin as well. And I said, I said to Jamie, I rang him up as soon as I'd read it, a Saturday morning, and I said, this is not a criticism of any of your work. It's just like constructive to get it right. There was just a few things, you know, to change really. But I'm really pleased the way he's written it. I really am. I told him that, you know, I'll tell him if he was, well, he is here today, so I'll be saying it just the same in front of him. You know, because I wanted it to be right, you know, so, and you've got
it's
it right,
important
yeah.
for you and your family.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, she was very generous with her time. I'm sure she's told you she's got an enormous amount of archive documentation, you know, every letter she sent and received relating to overturning the law, and she made us very welcome into that and to you know, use that material that she had. But also she was always available on the phone. If we had any questions, she was very open about, please come to me, ask those questions, which we did very regularly. But in terms of reading the script, I think it was 1 or 2 drafts where she went through it with a fine tooth comb, and she gave very minimal notes actually, but those that she gave were obviously very important to us, and Jamie actioned them so that they were ready, and she was happy with them before we started shooting.
First of all, it felt like there was a lot more taking scenes out than putting scenes in terms of how to structure the story. A lot of it comes from her book. I mean, I think it's a beautifully written book, and it tells her story so well.
The story of this incredibly brave woman, and I think, as we talked about before, her book broke down into 4 parts quite easily in some senses, so we always thought it was a 4-part drama, and you know, each episode, the first episode is obviously the most tragic episode, but then her fight for justice carries on, and we were hoping by the end is quite inspiring.
Yeah, and I think also the story, the true story, is so compelling that we certainly wouldn't want to, but we really didn't need to look to, you know, sort of injecting anything into it, because it's all there. It's in Ann's book, laid out very clearly, and naturally Jamie was able to sort of follow that, you know, that written document of it in a way.
What is not on those pages is, you know, a lot of, for example, the relationship dynamics in their marriage between herself and Charlie. So a lot of those scenes were invented, albeit passed through Anne's filter, and she'd let us know if we were on. I mean, to be fair, she was very complimentary. She said it feels exactly like this feels exactly like it was. But I mean, yeah, you're always going to have to make creative choices, telling true stories and turning it into what it is, which is a piece of entertainment. What you want that entertainment to do is move people, incite people, get people angry, get people passionate. Whatever your goal is, you've still got you've got to structure a story that does that. So yeah, there were a lot of characters that seemed not superfluous, but seemed unnecessary to include everyone. So there's been a sort of couple of melding of characters. Likewise, scenes. There's a lot of, you know, as you can imagine, over 17 years, there were a lot of court struggles, legal struggles, meetings with Home Secretaries. You know, there was 2 Home Secretaries she met during her actual, you know, David Blunkett and Jack Straw. We've just kept Jack Straw because you don't want it to feel repetitive. It's about getting the dynamic, which is what Eric's so good at. He's really done a beautiful job in making it always feel like you're propelled somewhere new, and you're stepping into new territory, and it feels fresh and interesting and exciting.
Yeah, that was for me a great sort of key to these scripts was not knowing anything more what's behind any door that Anne goes through when she goes and meets new people, which she constantly does, like especially in episodes 3 and 4, and 4 in particular, that there's no surplus of information with the audience. Like, the audience knows exactly as much or as little as she does, which is the key to a series that's told so exclusively from the main character's point of view. It's every scene is from Anne's point of view. Like episode 1, you really feel what it's like to not know where your daughter is, because you know nothing more than she does. Many other shows of this genre or similar would have the option of cutting to a police officer or a group of police officers who put together the puzzle, and they might know more than the main character, and then there's like an interplay of suspense there. Whereas we didn't have that luxury in a way, but that I think really worked to our benefit, because we could then really, that was the key to this drama, to just really focus on what the character knows and feels in this moment and nothing else. Like, there was no other way to create that sort of suspense and tension.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is exactly that was the sort of that was what made my take on this feel like it was in some way a little bit original. Is that, okay, as soon as I committed to the idea of, I want to tell this all from Anne's point of view, I don't want to give ourselves any breakaways, cutaways. We don't want to follow any other characters if at all possible. It seems like quite a challenge, that, especially if you're telling a story which has procedural elements in it. But it was one of those weird things that it's, what's the I think it's Plato, isn't it? Is it this necessity is the mother of invention. You know, once you've sort of given yourself constraints, paradoxically that's quite freeing. It felt it was really exciting in a way to sort of have to tell a story, especially in episode 1, which is a crime story, when you're only with one character, and that one character is a reactive character, and then propelling that through the rest of the series. So I think that, for me, is what I think once we sort of decided that's the way we're going to do this, it felt right. It feeds in a little bit to the next point, which is about a lot of crime drama, especially true crime drama, often focuses on the criminal, the bad guy, the killer, the rapist, whoever it might be, because it taps into the darker side of our sort of macabre sense of we want to learn more about these awful people. For us, it was always a case of it's not his story. We don't even want to name him. He's not named on screen. His story doesn't deserve more oxygen than it already has.
That was a very deliberate decision that we made as the creative team, not to name Julie's killer, because that's not what the story is about. The story is about Anne and her fight for justice.
This is a story about Anne. This is her story, and so I think once we sort of made that decision, it made it feel really interesting and original in a way. So yeah, that's the approach we took on sort of POV, I suppose. Yeah.
Been wrong. Something needs to be done about changing the double jeopardy law. How can the man who killed my little girl be free to keep on living his life?
Obviously, when you commit to making something like this, you want to do right by the people you're portraying. So it matters a great deal. You know, you've got to honour these people who live through it all. It's quite easy to forget. You know, we are in the entertainment industry. It's too easy to be glib about it sometimes and just think, you know, we've got to make the best story, and sort of forget that there are real people, not just Anne and her family, Mark Braithwaite, all the other people involved have lived through this. And so yeah, it's not just a piece of entertainment. It's something that we have to do to the best of our abilities. We have to get right, and we have to make sure that it does what we want it to do, which I hope it does.
It's important to get stories like Anne's out there, because when you did it all yourself, no lawyers, you know, you really took on the establishment. You did everything. Like, it's unbelievable what you achieved. I still don't think you quite realise you changed an 800-year-old law, you know.
I know, because when we got convicted, and our my solicitor we used in the past, I said to him, I'm going to start a campaign. He said, let me tell you this. He said, you are wasting your time. Really? Don't know what to tell you. The government will never, ever, ever change a law and apply it retrospectively. I said, well, I don't care what you were saying. My husband was saying, you want to listen to what he's saying? I said, I'm not listening to him, you or anybody. He said, I said, this needs to be changed, and I'm going to set about doing something about it.
And you did.
Which I did.
You're incredible. Yeah, I mean, there's some footage online, isn't there? There's a couple of bits in the show where there was actual footage online, so I've really tried to recreate it exactly how Anne did it. I mean, maybe the audience won't know that, but I knew you'd know, and even I switched my handbag at the same time you did in that press conference. But little things like that, I think it matters to me that Anne will know, and that your family, you know, will remember those moments. So. I just tried to do as much research and watched your mannerisms. And
well, you've succeeded. No, you have, Sheridan, really. You know, I'm not just saying it because you sat here with me. I'd say it if you weren't here because you've done a brilliant job.
Thank you.
I never doubted that you wouldn't do a brilliant job. I never, you know, when I suggested you was the actress, I thought, couldn't have got anybody better.
Oh, thank you. And that's all I wanted was to, you know, to make you proud. So. I keep getting emotional with you. I don't.